Welcome to the Wait I Know You podcast, season 1, episode 9. My name is Nick Rounds, and I will be your host. My next guest has been a professional writer and editor for 15 plus years, and she's been a podcaster for 5. She's the co-host of the Material podcast. She's also the co-host of the All About Android show on twit.tv, and most recently, the co-host of Gadgettes, a brand new Gizmodo podcast. When she's not busy writing for Geo Media, she's taking care of her daughter and Tamagotchis. Florence Ion.
That's correct.
Wait.
Tamagotchis. The Tamagotchis are her siblings. So I have killed them though. So I don't know what that says about me as a parent.
I'm gonna back far away from that and say nothing about it.
Hey, how are you? I'm happy to be here. Congratulations on your 9th episode. This is amazing.
Thank you. That comes with a lot of accolades, given the fact that you have been a podcaster for quite some time and have launched multiple ones. So thank you.
Yeah, it's a lot of work, isn't it?
Yeah, it's going from having no experience in editing audio and video and being a YouTuber to having to know everything about distribution, marketing, everything else. So I think I turned my side gig into being a social media manager / video editor on the side, which I'm like, why the hell did I do this? But enough about me. I'm here to interview you.
Yes. Hi.
Hi. So my first question, I kind of alluded to it already, obviously in the intro. One of the things that I really appreciate about you is that you give really awesome reviews of devices and news across the tech space, but you do it from a room that is steeped in nostalgia. From a Sailor Moon backdrop to flexing about Pokemon or Tamagotchi, you're an unapologetic 90s kid. Why is it so important to you to surround yourself with that stuff and mix it into your professional work?
Well, I think if I say that I'm a Taurus, I feel like the people who are into that will understand what I'm saying, which is to say that I very much thrive off of I actually didn't turn my lights on, which I just realized right now. It's so dark in here, but I need to have things to look at that are inspiring, I have a whole row of pens here to my right, which I don't really need, but the idea is that any color that I need for my list making and all that is readily available. I guess I was talking to my best friend yesterday. She said that something she appreciates about me is that while I am materialistic, I take really good care of my things. And so that's also partially why I have all this stuff, is because it this poster that's behind me, opposite, I've had this since I was 12. I'm now in my mid 30s. So this has been around for a long time. It's an original scroll, and it's something that just brings me back to, I think, the 90s. It's funny because I just finished watching the 8-Bit Christmas, which is part of the 80s nostalgia, which is more of my husband's generation. But we were just thinking about how you do kind of get a warm feeling from all that stuff that was around us at the time, because if stuff was hard at home or at school, that was what helped you out of that bad time. And I guess I still kind of carry that into my adult life. If I'm having a really rough day, I can just, I don't know, go over and re-straighten some of my Sailor Moon dolls just to help recalibrate.
Watch some 90210.
It's funny you say that because I was just watching that right as I was washing my face and stuff to come and see you on webcam. And I was watching the episode right as when Kelly starts to get into the cult. So I'm back at that storyline again. It just feels really, I've been studying cults a lot lately, so it just felt really
What okay. You can't just throw that out there and not follow up on it. What cults have you been studying about?
Okay, so I read this really great book. I was actually just saying maybe I could grab it. It's called American Cult, and I believe it was published through Silver Sprocket, and it's a graphic novel that basically walks you through all the major cult movements in America. And it starts with, oh God, I think the 1600s cult. I forget which one it was. I think it was the Children of God. Or was that Manson? See? I I kind of started my research at the beginning of the pandemic because there's just something so fascinating. I think it's because I went to religious high school. And it really the high school was very dogmatic and it was evangelical, so of course there was a lot of that going on. And I guess in adulthood, it's just helping me retrace some of those some of those things, and it's just so fascinating. How did Tom Cruise fall so far down the rabbit hole in Scientology? Like, what tactics did they use to bring him in? How did Nexium like get all of those celebrities to come and just basically become a part of a sex cult? Just no. It's
Yeah.
like, hey, this is my deliverance from Earth. Is this man who started his life in an MLM? So I'm so fascinated. And to that end, by the way, I'm also very into MLMs lately because they kind of fall into the cult stratosphere, so to speak. So it's been an interesting thing for my brain to do in my off time.
Study people that are manipulative egomaniacs.
Documentaries on HBO have just been like coming out one by one. I recently finished, oh God, I've actually forgot the name of it. Oh yes, it's called Way Down, but it's spelled way as in like being weighed, because the woman had started a religious cult based off of this, like you can lose weight by basically what's it called? Oh my God, I forgot the name. Intuitive eating. She basically rebranded intuitive eating as an evangelical prospect, brought all these people into a compound where she built this giant church in the middle of Tennessee, and some really horrible stuff happens actually. So trigger warning for anybody who ends up watching that on HBO, because it gets really dark and triggering. So, but for some reason, this is very interesting to me.
We're already off into the fun topics. Should I steer us back into the nostalgia of the 90s, perhaps?
Yes.
Since we've already took a left turn into cults immediately.
Yeah. I will say the nostalgia, I can help turn us there maybe. The nostalgia, 90s nostalgia has really, like when I log into TikTok, my algorithm is just video after video of magazines, old Delia's catalogs, the service merchandise catalog, like just all of, I'm actually starting to feel a tad overwhelmed by it. At first, I was like, oh, this is exciting. I could maybe like try and be a part of this on TikTok. Like, let me take, videos of the cute little toys I have, some of the stuff I'm getting, because I'm still buying stuff, importing it from Japan for my own, wonder. But it's so saturated at this point that I'm feeling like it's time for me to just kind of take a little break. I say as I received my Pokemon Christmas decorations today, but
What kind of decorations were they?
yeah, I got Pikachu and Eevee candle holders, and Pikachu stamped, the fake wax candles, the flameless candles.
I think, yeah.
It was a sale at the Pokemon Center. And the thing about these things, and I was telling this to my coworker the other day, because actually it was on this week's Gadgettes. I was talking about how much I spent on the Tamagotchi Smart to import it from Japan. And my coworker's like, you spent $150 to import that thing with shipping? And I'm like, yeah, I did. And I told her, I said, but you know what? This stuff is going to sell later in the future. Okay. Like I can sell this. This will help pay for my daughter's college education. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Amazing.
Based on what I see on eBay right now.
Sure. It's all hearsay until you actually get somebody to pull the trigger on it.
Yeah. Have you seen the resale values? I'm sorry. Have you seen the resale values on the Pokemon cartridges, like the original Game Boy games and DS games? They're being massively marked up right now. It's
yeah,
bonkers.
I believe it. I mean, everybody that grew up in that generation is an adult now, and they're hitting the nostalgia wave like I was with certain Nintendo games for sure, and then also toys as well. Obviously, I am a giant toy nerd, as you can see.
And you and I, we,
right
we understand each other on this level, like why we like to be surrounded by Pikachu pillows and
I mean, I don't have any Pikachu pillows here. I just have some shark pillows. But
That was a gift from my mom, okay? I wasn't going to say no. My mom saw it at Target and thought of me, which was very nice.
Well, yeah, anytime moms want to take a W with that of like
Exactly.
actually trying to feign some interest. Yeah. Trying to feign some interest in your passions, that's always a W. So
even in your mid-30s. Thanks, Mom.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, she could just get you like a pencil case and that'll be the end of it. So
that would, oh my God, those pencil cases, by the way, I really, really regret thrashing the ones that I got from Sanrio. But how could I know at that stage, like what life would be like? Because you would buy those things back then to bring to school and show off to everyone at school, of course. And when you bring things to school, they tend to get a little messed around because such is the environment of school full of children. A lot of those things had to get tossed out. And then I go on eBay and I look at like the Peckle pencil box that I used to have and how much it's going for now. And I'm just like, and I don't want to buy it either because somebody else used it. And I have nothing against buying used things because obviously I have a shelf full of them. But when it comes to pencil boxes, there's just something personal about somebody else's scratches. You know what I mean? And you can't like necessarily buy every toy. I don't know. It depends on the toy. That's how I feel about that.
Yeah, it's wild too. Did you know that the first Sanrio was in the first Sanrio in America opened up in San Jose?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I was reading a lot of history about it recently.
The Toys That Made Us did a really good episode on Hello Kitty.
Right.
Yeah,
I did watch that.
And that whole episode is just adorable because it just keeps making callbacks to Small Gift, Big Smile.
Sunshine Station. And the Bay Area in particular used to be riddled with these stores that were usually franchised. So they were each one was a little different because it would depend on whatever the manager ure of that store would import. But because we had a big import center, I learned all this because I was reading on the characters in Sanrio, they had discontinued some characters and introduced some new ones, etc. And I was reading that in the Bay Area in particular and in Southern California, Long Beach were two big ports where they would just drop off like all the Sanrio stuff. San Mateo, California used to have one of the big warehouses. And so that's why the Bay Area had all of these. And it's wild how much it influenced my childhood, just having immediate access to these cute little things. I know you brought me on here to talk about tech, but this is the other.
No, it's good. I mean, you're passionate about it and I'm leaning into it, so let's talk about it.
It's super fascinating to just think about capitalism and the economies and the way that they influence the things that you love as a child.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a special love there. Like, I think my favorite growing up was Tuxedo Sam.
Yes.
What was the penguin name?
Botsmaru. He's still around. He's still very cool. Like, he's the alt penguin. He's also constantly marketed towards boys, I should say, because Sanrio unfortunately still deals in the binary. So there's some things that need to evolve.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can just like what you like and not necessarily market towards one particular group. Yeah.
Precisely.
If you wanna like My Melody and you're a person, like My Melody, full stop.
But and that came to mind because in my research of Tamagotchi, I was learning a little bit about Digimon, which my brother and I didn't really get into as kids, even though like the show was on TV. But Digimon it's still going. You can buy like a smart bracelet akin to the smart Tamagotchi, whatever that I recently bought. And Digimon was originally introduced as the boy variant of Tamagotchi. So Tamagotchi was very much for girls in the mid 90s. And again, we're talking binary terminology here. And Digimon was very, very much for like, rough and tumble boys.
Beyblade.
Now you can buy a Digimon in every single freaking color. They made it very like, here's a sparkly purple one. Here's a lime green one. Here's a, communist red one. I don't know.
I feel like Yu-Gi-Oh did a better job of marketing towards that that way of just kind of being like the more male focused version of Pokemon, even though Pokemon is kind of like gender neutral in general. So
Not sure what I'm going to do with all of my brother's Yu-Gi-Oh cards from back in the day, though, because they are not as, they haven't really gone up in value the way that Pokemon cards have. And for that, I blame Logan Paul for ruining everything. Absolutely ruined the card game market. I can't buy cards. I actually play the game, mind you. I've been collecting these cards and working on my deck. I would kind of like to be, if God willing, I would like to be in my 70s competing against some young kid at like the Pokemon, national tournament or whatever. I would love to do that. Cause there's always some sweaty gamer guy and then another like young teen doing it, which is fine, but we need some more representation. And I love playing Pokemon the card game. It is so fun. I can't wait to teach my kid.
get wrecked, Bulbasaur.
Yes, I'm going to tell my Mona, I had you because I needed somebody to play Pokemon the card game with. So
You made your best friend.
expectations.
Good times. Lovely. Okay, let's talk about tech. Because we'll be off in the tangent of 90s like nostalgia.
I will never come back. I will take you out to the ocean. Yeah.
Drag me down. All right. So hard left turn, similar to the video games industry that I'm in, tech in general is cisgendered in a white male dominated industry. As someone who navigates that space, you found a voice of your own. And what has your journey been like kind of coming into your own in the land of tech?
This is a huge left turn because it's been a difficult journey. I I really wanted to be a journalist ever since I was a little girl, and it was just kind of figuring out what I needed to do to get there. And when we were younger, magazines were really the way that you could get a piece of pop culture and have time with it because we didn't really have all that time on the internet quite yet. The magazines that I read included like PC Gamer, PC World, just, full on anything nerdy that I could get my hands on. And I was really lucky that I was able to spend a couple years in the dying magazine industry before it completely disappeared and kind of learn some time in the trenches there. I I will say that back then it was just as uneven in terms of demographics as it is now. And I feel like because of how quickly online journalism, online blogging has grown, that because we never fixed the inequities back then, that it's still rampant now. One of those difficulties has just been like coming to, I'll say it, an all male staff and just feeling like I have absolutely no seat at this table. It's very difficult with also a 100% online staff. And I'm not saying this is a reason for any manager to go, see, this is why we need to have people in the office, because we don't need to have people in the office to do great work. But when you're a 100% like online group, there tends to become this chemistry between the people who chat online all day. And I can understand why that might become hard to like penetrate or allow somebody else in. But it is such a lonely feeling when you come in and you just realize like people are not interested in really integrating me, or they're not really interested in teaching me anything. It feels so lonely. And so I've had to deal with some of that in especially in the last, I would say 7 to 10 years. It's just been really rough.
Has there been any times where that's been broken down where you've been thankful for people that have reached out, or have you really had to carve your own way and just navigate that space knowing those things?
I would not be where I am without the other people who have carved out all this for me. I do have specific names in mind. I'm thinking a lot about people like Jackie Chang, who used to work at Ars Technica for a long time. She was also editor-in-chief of Wirecutter, which, by the way, is striking the weekend that we are recording this because the New York Times is not giving them the wage that they deserve. So people like Chang have really helped pave the way. There's so many other people who I could have to thank, but really just the people that I work with now, the people who have been in my DMs, just kind of being like, keep going, you got this, I'm here for you. The people who have reached out to me and been like, hey, there's a job opening, do you want to apply for it? Like, it's one thing that keeps me in this industry is that it is very community focused, and that's also one part of it that I really like.
That's awesome. What would you tell yourself when you were first starting out compared to what you know now and everything that you're passionate about?
Once again, this is a hard left turn because I love what I do for a living. I love my coworkers. I'm really happy to have my byline on Gizmodo. It's a site that I read for a really long time. And I just think back to where I started and how scared I was in college and trying out this job. And I guess I would just tell myself to trust myself a little bit more, to have a little more faith in myself. I spent so many years being so scared, it actually ended up holding me back a little bit. I really had this problem. And I want to share this in case it helps anybody else. I really had this problem when I worked at Ars Technica. I was there for a short period of time, but I was so young and I was so fresh off of magazines thrust into this like really fast-paced online blogging world. And I appreciated that my time at Ars, I learned how to balance, like, we need to get this really fast, but also we need things to be extremely accurate and like stay within the journalistic principles. And I appreciate that because I feel like so much of that has kind of slipped through the cracks with online journalism, and just having a place that will give you a chance to figure yourself out. So just telling my younger self to just be patient and just try to ride the wave a little more than trying to fight it.
For the layman, what are the journalistic principles?
Accuracy, making sure you cite your sources, making sure that everything you've said in the copy can be related back to a fact. I know this sounds really like, well, how do you make sure is every sentence has to be something? This is how I would put it in layman's terms. Every sentence that I write needs to be Googleable. If I said that right. So if I am telling you like something costs a certain amount of money, you need to be able to Google that and have that be correct. If I'm saying that something was released a certain time of year, like that needs to be something that anybody could reference and make sure that that's real. Because if I mess something up and I don't go fix it, it makes me lose my credibility.
That makes sense. And yeah, like as a representative of a brand and or a journalistic entity, that matters a lot. So
yep, absolutely. Journalistic code of ethics. It's a whole printout, by the way. It's like a PDF you can print out if you'd like to put on your wall.
Is it on your wall? Is it right in front of you? We don't see it?
It's actually not, which it's not like an OSHA thing. I don't have to put it up on the wall for everybody to see but during work hours, but I probably should. I used to have a little card that I kept. I got it for free at some like a press event that I went to, and I used to keep it in my wallet right next to my blackjack cheats card. Not cheats, but it's like it teaches you how to count in your head.
Did you try to become a blackjack card counter? Did that happen? What did that happen?
So because
you've never told me that before.
Okay, so this is good. This is a good segue because I've gone to CES so many times. I've gone like 10 times in my life, right? The Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas. And as a baby journalist, I was like, oh, all these people are gambling. But then as I got older, you start to hang out with like the journos who are like, hey, I'm like tired, but not tired. Do you want to go gamble? And you're like, okay. So one night I went out, and this is actually with my Ars Technica coworkers, and they taught me how to play blackjack. I lost $200, which is a lot for a baby journalist. It's a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot of money to lose.
And immediately after that, I noticed that one of my coworkers had the little card in his wallet. And so immediately after that, I went to the gift shop in the casino and I bought myself one. And then following that, I would download like mobile games to help me learn how to go through it. And I still practice on like Clubhouse games on the Switch because it has a blackjack mode for my inevitable return to the Vegas casinos. So
Is is blackjack still your favorite game, or do you play
yes,
any other games?
I think I like blackjack because it's very understandable for me. It just felt really accessible, whereas the other casino games don't. And I also learned how to play it so that you can keep getting drinks, because that's like part of the experience is you keep playing, keep getting drinks, but you have to stay in long enough for the waiter to come back with the drink on the tray. Yeah,
Yeah.
just bet minimum. It's fine. It's fine.
There's certain table games that you can play that you can just sit there and just collect drinks from. If you go to Old Vegas, it's a lot easier because their minimums
Yep.
are lower. And like going to the Cortez and playing either Ultimate Texas Hold'em or Pai Gow, especially because Pai Gow has some of the best break-even odds, is
Oh, that's
fantastic.
why
But
so many people play it.
yeah, if you want to drink, play Pai Gow. But don't
See?
get me started. Don't get me started about gambling stuff because that's what I know.
I
About.
know. Listen, I'm a person who likes Vegas. We're going to Tahoe soon, and we're staying in the Nevada side, and I'm not quite sure if I'm ready to do that just because we're still in a pandemic and my little one can't yet get vaccinated. But once she gets that shot, mommy's going back to the tables.
Shuffle up and deal.
Yeah, with her measly journalism earnings, but you know what? It's all good.
It's still good though. So going back to tech, and a lot. And speaking of the pandemic, so much has changed within a decade. Pandemic notwithstanding, in terms of like tech and trends and all that stuff. What are some of the trends that have surprised you the most, and what trends do you see on the horizon of the next 5 years in tech?
I'm really surprised that VR is where it is right now. I thought for sure that it was going to go by the wayside, akin to how Google Glass just kind of got pushed into the enterprise, which is to say, if you go to like a shipping facility, or let's say you go somewhere where they work with really big machinery, they're using a lot more augmented reality to help train employees and also just to help employees in the process. So they're not like moving back and forth, looking between screens and, the pallets they have in front of them, so to speak. I was also not expecting that Meta, as it's now called, previously known as Facebook, would be taking it as far as it did, and that it would be the only one kind of really carrying the torch. There's something that we could say, I guess, for Valve still having the I forgot what it's called already, the Vive.
Oh yeah.
Because that's the thing, it's not really in the zeitgeist as far as a name anymore. It used to be like, wow, the Vive was so cool what it could do, but all the hardware that it required. And then Oculus, also now known as Meta, figured out how to put it into this tiny little handset that you could bring home and put right next to your Nintendo Switch. So I'm thinking that because of the huge event that Meta had, Zuckerberg came out and was like, this is what I want us to pour our money into. That's essentially what he told the world. And I see that that's really going to be where our online spaces are moving. I think a lot of folks are really not going to be happy with that, because I think it's going to start with the workplace. So you're going to have to really get that avatar spruced up and looking cool. Maybe you can buy that avatar, a little NFT, kill the planet for a pair of Nikes, virtual Nikes.
What were your thoughts on that trash fire that was the introduction of Meta?
It was such an outstanding come into this world. Here's what we're going to do with all this technology. And that really worked in the early 2010s. That was really in the vernacular at the time. We were just really fascinated with what was going to happen with our computers and our phones. And we were like, wow, they can actually put a whole computer in a little phone kind of situation. But as it all became commonplace for us, then we started to kind of suffer with like fatigue from too much screen time. And now we have body image issues because social media is as rampant as it is. And, it's just this never ending maelstrom that it used to be. And so I see a lot of, I know that's not your original question, but I see a lot of pushing and pulling between how much we want to like innovate and evolve, let's say, and how much we now desire to kind of like pull back a little bit and slow down.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Yeah, that whole presentation was wild. And I think you hit the nail on the head there as far as like how it felt dated. Like it felt like it would absolutely hit in 2010, when Facebook was still on the rise. But yeah, given the way that things are now, it just seems like really out of touch. I think the other things that made me laugh about it is that like somebody on his team, obviously not him, decided to put the Sweet Baby Ray's in his bookshelf and like make jokes about his sunscreen face and all that stuff. It's just like nobody should stand a CEO ever. Like Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, like you're never going to be funny. You're some uptight business guy that has trouble drinking water and sounding not like a robot. Like just stop it. Get out of your own way.
That is a holdover from the like old, it's not old. It was the 2010s introduction of all this, Silicon Valley tech. Even though it's always existed, it was just something about the way it all boomed at the same time that just created this like huge reaction in society. I think it was also because it was the first time that tech became easily accessible outside of just Western markets. Like a lot of third world and second world countries finally were like online and materializing in this manner. And I feel like Zuckerberg would have really had an impact with this around the same time that Sergey Brin of Google was dropping in through the ceiling from a helicopter to introduce the Google Glass. Like that was the period of time where it was just all sorts of hijinks from tech. And I feel like people like Elon are trying to still carry that through, but it's gotten so nasty that it's hard to say I can stand anybody. I'm having a hard time looking at a CEO and saying like, yeah, I'm really believing in what you're doing.
And the Google Glass era was such like a weird little pocket of time too, because like it was happening around the time where like AR and VR was still very young. And I think it was around the same time the Oculus was happening as well. And I remember bars like Zeitgeist were like banning people from walking into Zeitgeist with Google Glass because they were just like tech pro, go home. And I feel like
was it Zeitgeist that did that?
Yeah, Zeitgeist. Yeah, I mean Zeitgeist has on their door says like no tech bros, and then like they explicitly said don't come in here with Google Glass at all. Like we'll kick you out.
Well, now people are wearing Ray-Bans.
Right. And then even before that, there was the Snapchat glasses. So it's not like it's going away, but it's a little bit gross and I don't know, intrusive. But I guess it's all on the table at this point. And the dystopia of Ready Player One that we live in now, whatever twisted version of it, that suddenly Facebook can call itself Meta out of nowhere. It's like trying to make Fetch a thing. They're trying to make Meta a thing. So,
well, they have all the money to make it happen. They were able to like snap up all the domains. They were able to immediately change the logo outside of the HQ in Menlo Park. It's just like they can move really fast, and they're still moving fast and breaking things. And this is still the ethos in Silicon Valley. We even see it happening like Google and other big players in the Valley. They're not all in the Valley, but you know what I mean.
Right. Well, it's funny. Yeah, it's funny when people talk about Silicon Valley, like they don't realize that San Jose is mainly just like a flat plain. It really isn't a valley. It's just the south of the Bay Area. It's not that exciting.
It used to be coastal. If you go hiking on some of the trails in San Jose, they'll have little markers that go, San Jose used to have a beach. It's like one time.
I'm sure it didn't smell good, and I'm sure.
Yeah, now you're just bordering marsh.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of algae in that beach per se, but that's neither here nor there. So you named out Google a couple times. I would be remiss if I didn't mention the fact that you're an Android stan like I am. Have you ever been tempted to go the dark side?
Here's my. It's really funny you say that. So I did have an iPhone 4S. Had an iPhone 4S for about 6 months back when I was still working in magazines, because I worked for an Apple magazine called Mac Life, which is still hanging by a thread. And it was it was an easy experience. I absolutely loved how simple it was. And back then, the iPhone was the best camera phone that you could get. Some people would argue now that the iPhone is still the best camera phone that you can get. And definitely the iPhone 13 has been turning a lot of heads. They really improved the camera sensors that they have in there. And my cousin she watches my kid and she takes pictures of her every single day. And they're just like the best looking pictures. However, once I once I logged onto the Android beat, I never looked back. I was so happy to adopt a Samsung Galaxy S3 because I had started on Android with the HTC Incredible and I was so happy to go back to it. And I've been on it ever since. I love the ability to have choice. I love the things that I can do with the phone. I love that I could just like plug it into my computer and drag and drop files. Can't do that with an iPhone as far as I know. The Pixel series, I'm not a super fan quite yet of the new Pixel 6 series just because like the Pro is really too big for me. It's so huge. But the camera sensor in it is still unparalleled in the Android realm. So I don't know how I could move away from it. My whole life is in this ecosystem. And that's something that I try to talk a lot about because I know that other folks will get into this and be like, well, why don't you just leave? But I have 3 Google Assistant speakers within proximity of me right now, which is partly because I do cover this stuff, so that's why I have them. Not all of them are hot mics, by the way. Most of them are muted.
That's good.
So what you see behind me actually is this is a Facebook Portal Go. And I set up Amazon on it. I'm not going to say the name because it will trigger other devices as well. But I don't use it because I just never really was a fan of the Amazon way of doing the smart home. And that's, by the way, something else I'm fully into. I'm fully into the smart home. I feel like a god when I walk into a room and I go, turn on the lights. And they just like turn on exactly how it's awesome.
Yeah, I remember, I think in like the early days when Bill Gates was still, I guess in the good graces of a lot of things. But when he first moved out to his island and there was like stories about how his home like responded like voice and stuff like that would change. And I remember thinking back then, I'm like, oh, that sounds so awesome. Now it's like, that's kind of boring.
Yeah. And yes, there are privacy implications. I am obviously like extremely aware of those, but I also write about all this stuff. And so I feel like for science, I should allow myself to just completely be taken over.
All hail the new flesh.
I am part of so I have like an Echo turned on over here to my side and I test a bunch of smart displays at the same time. I like to see, what the different home screens are, information that they're pushing through. I like to experience the different alerts that I'll get. That's not something I'm going to get in like a 2-week testing period. You really have to live kind of long-term with these things. But one thing I really do like about the Echo, and I completely lost my train of thought.
Talking about smart devices, talking about having to live with them and be long in the tooth about how you integrate them into your life.
Thank you. The Echo, I just don't like the app that comes with it. The smartphone app is just very not into it. Not that the Google Home app is any better. These things still have a lot of kinks that they need to work out. And I am what I was going to say is I'm a part of the Sidewalk program. The Amazon Sidewalk program, which what it does is it creates a tiny mesh network for your neighborhood. So anybody who has an Echo device in their house that can be a part of this program will basically help extend the connection of your devices and your neighbor's devices within vicinity.
So is it like a mesh Wi-Fi network that boosts everything, or is it?
Yeah, something akin to that. Yeah. I'm still figuring out like what benefit it is to me, let's say as a consumer, but that's one thing that like I just leave on and running, even though it's a huge privacy implication. And Amazon says like, oh, don't worry about it. It's not as Big Brother as you might think it is, but it is because it's still connecting your device to your neighbors in some capacity. So
right. Well, thanks for that horror story.
It's a curious world we're like living in right now. Well, even the other Google devices that I have are all little mesh network, but just within themselves. And it's
Right.
because of the protocols that they use to like extend, it's I'm sorry if I'm getting too nerdy, but
No, it's good. I mean, that's why I brought you on here, because you know a lot more about gadgets and things that most people know, especially stuff that's out now, that people might not know about. Because from just watching your podcast or like watching the stuff that you write on Gizmodo, like you're reviewing and touching a lot of stuff that people either may not have heard of, or it is actually pretty interesting, fascinating. I guess related to that, what are some essential gadgets that you think people should use or incorporate within in their 2022 life?
2022 life, I would say smart bulbs are always a good choice. And you don't have to get anything with like the Philips Hue with a hub. Philips Hue it is the priciest of the smart bulbs that you can get. I think Nanoleaf is next to them in terms. I'm actually doing a huge blowout. I'm actually doing a huge shootout between the different bulbs so I can kind of figure out which ones have the best color spectrums and brightness and all that. And so I'm still kind of figuring out what is what, but smart bulbs are great. I give them to everybody and they love them. My mom loves her smart bulbs. She says she loves her room. Like it could be pink or it could be green or it could be just like regular light. And she's helped me out with some other smart reviews that I've done as well. I did equip her with a couple of smart displays and smart speakers. Definitely ask for consent before you like gift someone something like that, or even if you're bringing it into your own household, just asking your family how they feel about a hot mic being on. I like to tell friends before they come over, like, hey, just so you know, like I muted the mics, so don't try and turn on any smart lights with your voice. And also, nobody's listening to you. Don't worry about it. It's just like a common courtesy. And I also like to let the neighbors know that my house is outfitted with a bunch of security cameras, not just because I would like to know if a coyote sneaks into my backyard, because I don't currently have coyote protection, but also because I am testing these things constantly. Ask me about my Comcast bill.
I was just going to say, there is no big brother, but apparently you're big sister in the neighborhood.
Yes, I am. And I'm probably paying the most for internet out of everybody in this court because of all the bandwidth that I use for these cameras. Oh, yeah, that's the other thing. If you have a camera in your house, please dial down the quality. You do not need high resolution camera footage when you are just like going to the grocery store and back. You really don't. You don't need to see a fox in high resolution. I know you want to post it to Nextdoor, but it just costs a lot of money.
Is that really what it is? Is just like the passive, like anytime somebody comes by your street, it'll just use your bandwidth like nuts?
Yeah, my front doorbell, I left it on high resolution because I forgot to change it over after testing it. And our Comcast bill every month was, you need to pay more because you maxed out your unlimited data. I'm like, we maxed out unlimited data. That's bad.
I was just going to say, how does one max out unlimited data? That is a little bit of an oxymoron there.
Well, that's because we're all really being lied to, and there's no such thing as unlimited anything. You will get throttled at some point.
Jerks.
Yes. Well, for a public utility, maybe it'd be priced a little differently, but we don't have that in America.
Let's not go down there. Let's not go down the net neutrality rabbit hole, because then I'll get angry about that.
I know. Come. That's why if you need to download a big bunch of data, go to a Scandinavian country and just use their internet. It'll totally be worth the price of the plane ticket.
I was just going to say that seems like a weird cost benefit, but okay. I mean, I guess traveling, maybe not this time of year during winter, but perhaps some other time during the summer or spring perhaps. Just don't go during midsummer.
Yeah. Oh, don't go during midsummer at all, because you're not coming back.
Say no to the bear costume. Say no to the flower outfit, and you'll be good. Going back to cults. Anyway.
Exactly.
Let's talk about your podcast stuff. So you're on a couple different podcasts, and you recently started a brand new podcast called Gadgettes. What inspired you to start that effort with your co-host beyond getting a job at Geo Media and being part of Gizmodo?
So I co-host it with my editor, actually, Caitlin McGarry. And Caitlin and we work together. She used to work at Macworld and I used to work at PC World. So we worked together under the same editor-in-chief for many years. And we became fairly close, because I was flying back and forth to New York where she lived. And we had a New York office, so I'd work alongside her. We'd always sort of chatted between our little group of journalist girls, just to call us that we wanted to start something that would resonate with more than just all the tech bros that are out there. This is no shade to the YouTubers and the influencers who work their butts off to make the videos and to get the leaks that they do and everything that they do that contributes to this wild ecosystem of gadget reviews. But it does feel like it's incredibly homogenous. I am so sick of just seeing like five guys on a panel. It's not content that I'm interested in. Those are not the folks that are going to resonate with how I use tech in my daily life. Like Caitlin and I are tax paying, mid-30s women who we have health on the mind. We want to know the smartwatches and the wearables that are going to help us in the long term. Like I'm postpartum. I was constantly looking for tech gadgets, maybe even subscription services that would help me back on my journey. So that's just the fitness aspect of it. But even just the way like we use tech is a little different. Is a folding phone cool? Absolutely. I loved the Galaxy Z Flip 3. It is so much fun. But it's not a good phone if you're a doting parent and you're trying to take pictures of your kid all the time, because by the time you open that thing up and get the camera turned on, you've missed the moment. Like there's just these little things that we need to think about demographically. Everybody uses their gadgets differently. And so that's what Gadgettes was ultimately in response to. But Caitlin and I just have a lot of fun also interviewing our coworkers who are all amazing reporters and just doing all of this great work. And honestly, it feels pretty badass to have a tech podcast that passes the Bechdel test, I will say.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a nice thing to be able to market for it. And by the way, I already do 2 other podcasts with my dudes. And they're my brothers and I love them. And they gave me a space at their table and we have created beautiful. All About Android is just beautiful. It's mostly like a fan Android podcast, but developers will definitely get a lot out of it because we go into the weeds of Android development, what Google's doing to make this platform the reason I haven't left for iOS. And then Material, which I do with Andy Anatko. Andy is a longtime veteran journalist of this industry. I am learning so much from him. And we just talk about what Google's doing. We're just kind of like I'm going to say this, we're the Google cops.
How so? Like, what do you mean by that?
That's just how I want to market us. We just read every little bit of news about Google that's going on. We talk about not only do we talk about the new hardware that comes out from Google or how to use the things. I talk a lot about my smart home journey on that show and the things that bother me and the things that I love. We also talk about why Google employees are walking out. We talk about why Google employees are sending around a manifesto. We actually didn't talk about this, but some employees came out that they didn't want to get vaccinated. And like, that's a pretty big deal in Silicon Valley right now, which is trying to get people back into the office for work. We just try to be a watchdog for this company that really runs our tech life.
No
Maybe
kidding.
watchdog is better than cop.
Yeah. A cab all the time. So one of the things I like about your podcast, Gadget specifically, is that something that you mentioned is just like the way that you talk about tech and the way that you incorporate it in your life. So you personalize it in a lot of ways. I enjoyed the one you were talking about, like the Peloton bike and stuff like that. But you also discussed Housewives, reality TV in the first episode. and you're one of my many friends that are addicted to that content. What is that biggest appeal to that genre for you? Because I'm fascinated by the fact that so many of my friends are like super addicted to this trash TV. Like, what is it that is so appealing about it?
Okay, it's our families reflected back to us. That's why. That's what I think it really is. Like, for instance, New Jersey Housewives. My family is Romanian. There's a lot of similarities in like the immigrant coming to America culture, the machismo that, there's a lot of ways you kind of find yourself in this reality TV. And I think that's why a lot of people like to watch it. Also, these women are they put themselves out there, and most of them we love to hate, to be quite frank. Like one of the housewives from New York, Ramona, she's just a huge freaking racist, especially like lately. She's been really overt about it because of everything else that's been going on. They actually ended up not having a reunion, which some people are thinking is because Ramona was just way too racist. Like nobody wanted to get together after all of this crap that happened. It's like wrestling. It's exactly like wrestling. That's why I watch it. These people are totally, so like it is reality TV and real things happen. For instance, in Beverly Hills, we just had a housewife. She's going down because her husband stole like $20 million from not only victims of the huge Indonesia Airlines plane crash. I think it was Indonesia Airlines plane crash that happened several years back. But remember the San Bruno explosions that happened?
Yeah.
So apparently her lawyer husband had stolen money from the people who are like on permanent disability because of this PG&E snafu, to say the least. And it's just incredibly infuriating. But then you're watching this and you get to basically be like, I hate you and I hate what your husband has done to these poor people. It is kind of a hate watching, but also these women, it's like wrestling. They're all playing a part, even though it technically is like their real lives or whatever is going on.
The cream of the crop.
It's
President
the easiest
Jack
way.
Dunny.
It's the easiest way to hate on rich people and laugh at them.
It's so good.
I mean,
it's a way to do it. All right, Florence. It's been fantastic to talk to you. What?
I'm just it's been so nice talking to you, and like I'm kind of bummed that we're ending.
Well, I mean, what else do you want to talk about? We can keep going. If you want to talk, you can ask me questions. We can talk about whatever.
All right, I want to ask you, what are you into collecting lately?
Oh, okay.
Or what have you collected lately, I guess?
What have I collected lately? So I've been mainly collecting, I might have to pull up some pictures because it'll make my life easier. But
by the way, I know for a fact that Nick, I think, is still using that Corsair keyboard. The low profile.
No, it's not low profile.
Oh, you didn't get the low profile mechanical. You got
no,
the regular.
I take that back. You're correct. It is low profile. But yes, I am.
I gave my husband that keyboard too. He loves it.
Nice. Yeah, it's still still pretty loud. I don't like super loud clicky keyboards, but this one's okay.
Well, Razer just actually made a super quiet one. It's a mechanical keyboard though. Oh, that is super cool. Oh, I love that.
So this is by Unbox Industries. This is showing up eventually because of Ghostbusters. Regardless of Ghostbusters Afterlife, Stay Puft Marshmallow Man is one of my favorite things. And Unbox makes a lot of awesome toys in general. And I love their little dinosaur dude. They also have a elephant named Effie that's basically in the shape of a burger. That is really awesome. So I'm still mainly collecting vinyl toys. I've also been collecting because Masters of the Universe is kind of back in a big bad way because Mattel is flooding the market with it. I've been collecting. I have every single Masters of the Universe Origins, which shows up in Target. The Snake Mountain is right behind me. It's hard to. I'm always flipped around, but the Snake Mountain's right there. It's behind me. You can't really see it. But it's a little nuts. I have a lot of them, but Yeah, I'm enjoying it because when I was younger, I had a lot of Master of the Universe He-Man stuff. But then when I was like 15, I decided that I was like grown up or whatever. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna get rid of my toys now. So my dad donated my toys to my younger cousin. And then eventually, I want to say like 2 years later, I was having like some second thoughts. I was like, hey, do you have any of my old toys still? He's like, no, I just gave them all to Goodwill. So all that stuff. I have hardly any of my original toys. And frankly, that's why I collect toys now, is because I like them.
I
And
completely get it. I did this with Sailor Moon and Sanrio. I was like, Mom, I don't want it anymore. And thankfully, she kept this poster. So my mom kept it in the attic for years. And she brought it over one day and she's like, this is for Mona. I'm like, no, this is mine. This is not going to Mona. Like, maybe when I'm dead, she can have it. But right now, it's mine. God forbid, by the way. But yes.
that's hilarious.
I feel you. I'm doing the same with some old electronics I had as a kid. Like, remember the little Dear Diary, like Casio, the digital address books that they had back in the day. Somebody stole mine in the 7th grade, so I rebought it for myself.
That makes me sad.
Anyway.
So this is my current setup right here.
That's right. I saw this photo on Instagram the other day. Oh my goodness, I love this. This is just my my little Pokemon playset that I have going on.
Yeah, so that's full nerd setup behind me. It's hard to tell because it's sideways, but and then over here, this is all stuff that I've had legacy. It's hard to tell because it's not lit up really well. I guess I could do this. Hold on. So this is all Frank Kozik stuff. These are all the rabbits, and then this is some stuff from Rocom Toys. This is the Henry and Glenn Forever. There's some Life Size Skeletor here, and then like the Kanatsu Lucky Cat, and there's some Super 7 stuff down here. It's hard to tell because it's not lit up, but
yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, but
mine are all behind the camera. I do have my keyboards back here though.
Actually, that is one thing I do want to talk to you about. Like, so I have a friend actually that she was a cosplayer for a long time, and she blew up on TikTok because she started reviewing keyboards.
Oh yeah.
What? I don't get it. I mean, I get it, but I don't get it. Like, explain the keyboard culture. Like, why is there such a huge appeal there?
See, I have to actually start working on a story about this because it's been interesting how much it's blown up in the last year and a half. And I think part of it was because everybody was stuck at home and just kind of flipping through social media, and they noticed, oh my God, I can have a really pretty keyboard for like $30 and swapping them out myself, score. I think part of it just has to do with the ability to put yourself into something that you use every single day, especially if you're a programmer or a writer and you're a digital writer like myself. It's when you've got a tool of the trade, so to speak, it's like having a guitar that's perfectly tuned to you, or a drum set that is, laid out in the way that you play drums. And I think initially that was where it really started. It stemmed from like, I want to have a very specific board with very specific, macro shortcuts for programming and all that. And then as more aesthetics came into it, then that's what brought me to it. I was so into the idea of having a pink and purple keyboard. I wanted something that was pretty and not something that was just like black and gray. No offense to those who find black and gray beautiful, but
AKA who are boring, but
no. Listen, I've got black and gray things as well. I have a black car. I only believe in a black car, quite frankly. Yeah, it's a beautiful little hobby, but I will tell you that this one that's behind me, not this one, but this one doesn't work quite perfectly because that one I built from scratch. And I have no idea what I'm doing.
Buyers beware.
Mm-hmm.
But
if you have no idea what you're doing, just buy a kit.
I mean, it seems like a fun activity. It's wild to me that like there's like a level of ASMR there in addition to like collecting keycaps and then customizing the way that things feel. There's a lot of weird nuance there within that fandom that fascinates me, that people are like super into it. So
yeah. Well, I'll try and find you some low profile keycaps. Maybe I can get you. They're hard to find, by the way. I look, and if I wanted to get a set, I would have to buy them from AliExpress. I'm not quite sure about the vendors or the quality.
Cool. Well,
But I
Florence,
will say, just to put a pin in that, sorry, just one last
sure.
thing. We've reached the point where keyboards are so in the cultural zeitgeist that you can now buy keycaps, artisan keycaps at Urban Outfitters. So I anticipate it will be over by next summer.
I was going to say, if Urban Outfitters has it, then it's already a dead trend.
That's it.
I
We're
remember
done.
when they used to. You're right. They used to be like the cutting edge thing, but then like they were the cutting edge thing before 2010, and then when 2010 hit, they were like basically clout chasers. Like anything that was kind of cool, they would suddenly have in their store. Like the second that Polaroid cameras were in their store, it's like, all right, we're done.
Urban Outfitters kill the Polaroid camera again.
Well,
No,
thankfully Polaroid is back per se, and
Yeah.
there's been some artists that have released actually like customized new Polaroid 600 cameras, which is awesome because back in the early 2010s, like, well, it makes you sad because like Polaroid's back, but there's certain types of film, instant film, that's still gone. Like the Polaroid land cameras that frankly have made some of the best, most beautiful photos. That film is extinct and out of print. And there's other, well, actually, don't get me started about film because I'll go off on a wild tangent about all the dead film stock that's out there that makes me sad that I can't really use anymore. Like Fujifilm 1600, you can only get it from Japan. It makes me sad. So
That's kind of why I gave up on cameras, just because it wasn't as accessible. It didn't, yeah. Keyboards feel more accessible at this point in my life.
it's a slightly less expensive habit. That's
Slightly less expensive.
yes. Right on.
I had a lot of fun talking, Nick. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no, it was an absolute pleasure. I knew I wanted to talk to you because you navigate a space that most people don't know about, and I think it's awesome. So, is there anything else that you like to plug before we leave? Social media sites, cool things happen in your life?
Well, you already know about my podcasts, so you can find those wherever you get podcasts. They're called All About Android, Material, and Gadgettes. And then I got a special URL for my byline at Gizmodo. It's flowrights.tech if you want to just read my blog reel. And I also have a website, florenceion.com. And if anybody's interested in joining my Discord, we have a lovely, thriving little community. We have a tech support channel in there, a lot of fellow nerds who love everything you're into. So please come join our community.
I'll make sure there's links for all that stuff in the description of the video.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Florence, thank you so much for your time. Everybody else, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.